Plastic bags, you get them everywhere. From the grocery stores to the regular shopping stores that you go to, everybody gives you a plastic bag to take home. Well, they are really handy to do stuff at the house, but they can get everywhere. Look at how big they are. They can just make a mess. So today we're going to be building a storage unit to hold all these and also mess with some clothing dye to see what kind of stain we can come up with. For this project I wanted to accomplish three things. One, to create a storage unit for all these plastic bags that we have. The second is to see what kind of creative design dovetails in plywood would make when it was actually finished. And the third was to see what happens when you use clothing dye on wood. My box is 14.5 inches tall by 6 inches wide and also 6 inches deep, so it's pretty much a big rectangular box. The dovetails were fairly easy to create, as you can tell by just sawing on the marks. I didn't really have any major layouts or measurements for them. You just kind of can eye it up and go with it. And I got 3 dovetails on each corner to give it a little bit of contrast, and the layers look pretty good for now. There was a little bit of difficulty with some of the pieces of the plywood starting to try to tear off because it's thin veneered pieces all laminated together, but ultimately it's sawed fine, and whenever I chopped the pieces to get the waste out, I always went from one side and then came back from the other so that I didn't have any major tear out. After I got all my dovetails created, I went ahead and did the major glue up of the sides of the boxes, and after I had all the clamps on, I went ahead and measured to make sure everything was all square, and it looks like it was perfect and dead on. For the front and the back, I also wanted to kind of experiment with laminating pieces of plywood together. This ultimately turned out to be a failure because it didn't take the stain like I wanted it to. It pretty much just all looked the same. But for the piece where I cut the plywood pieces, I'm going to still use it as the back, and I'm just going to go ahead and create a rabbet around the edge that it is recessed in. And I did this using 3 passes, moving the router table each a little bit time to create a wider rabbet around the edge to fit inside the box. And for the front side, I just go ahead and clamp it on with glue. After I got all that stuff glued up, I wanted to, at this point is when I wanted to make the decision of what I wanted to be my front or back, either the plywood or the laminated plywood side, where you can see all the different layers. So I went ahead and just used the clothing dye on the box, and then I figured I'd drill the holes later. The dye went on really easy. This is one of the points where you don't want to let any of it really run because it leaves a bad mark and it's hard to get out unless you actually get a piece of a layer of the plywood off, so you'd end up leaving a gouge. And as you can see with the plywood edge, or the laminated plywood, it didn't take very well with the different colors. If there's any glue whatsoever on your wood, it does show up very bad. That's one thing that I found out. After I got all the dye put on, I went ahead and drilled my holes, and as you can see, I chose to use the actual solid face of the plywood for the front of the box just because it looked better, and the plywood can still be used on the back side because nobody's going to ever see it. So I went ahead and drilled one hole in the top, one in the bottom. These were 2.5 inches round. and then I just simply took a file and rounded over the edge of each hole. After that, I went ahead and attempted to put on a clear finish, and I used polyurethane, and this was a disaster. It pretty much just clumped on the box, and it didn't really want to spread, so it left a horrible texture on the front. And then I went to go wipe it off, and it pretty much just peeled off. So it's like none of it actually stuck on the box like normal stained wood, where it would seep into the wood. And after I went ahead and got all that wiped off, because I don't have any other finish besides the polyurethane, I'm gonna have to just leave it for right now. I might go ahead and put another coat of the dye on. But I think it turned out fairly well. The dye took really well. You can tell on this side. This is where the polyurethane was when I stopped. I didn't use it on any of the other sides. Here's the plywood that's laminated, so you can tell. But it works out great. You just pull out the bags from the bottom, and you just stuff them in the top like that. And that's how the box works. So just got to get it hung up on the wall, and I'm going to wait to do that until after I get these. I'm going to get it like a spray lacquer to put on it. That way it doesn't clump up as bad. So go ahead and leave a comment on what your thoughts are with it. I think it turned out fairly well. There was some trial and error with the dovetails and the different dyes, but I mean, that's all experimental stuff, and that was the purpose of this little project. So leave a comment below. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and make sure you subscribe for more woodworking, blacksmithing videos. Go ahead and visit me over on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Google. I'm on all the little social networks around there. So stop by, say hi, and we'll see you guys on the next video.